Hi, and welcome to lesson 27 for Thursday and Friday of the week of the first week in December, but also the week of November the 30th. So today we're going to do a quick review of the rough draft expectations for this weekend for your second essay. That's the interview essay where you're interviewing for either college or career. And again, you can be interviewing someone with a career that you want to have or who is at a college that you would like to attend. But for the sake of completing this essay, if you can't find someone who fits either of those descriptions, you can absolutely be interviewing someone who simply has a job that you're interested in learning more about, um, who you know. So that could be a friend or family member or a neighbor, and really anybody who you can get an interview with. There can also be a teacher. I count too. So we're also going to be looking at Act 1, Scene 1 of A Raisin in the Sun today. I'm not going to show that in this recording because I just can't embed a recording in recording, but I'm going to post those links and show you where to go to complete the assignment attached to that, which will be due next Saturday. And that's just about 12 questions about Act 1, Scene 1 that you can answer as you're watching the film. And then for informational text, there's no new informational assignment today. We're focused on the rough draft in class. After we watch that 30-minute portion of Act 1, Scene 1, we're going to have the remainder of the class to work on any assistance that students might need for any of the previous assignments. And as always, that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner, if you take a picture of that, it'll take you through to the master document that contains all of these recorded lessons and broken down links to all of the recorded explanations for each assignment that I have posted in Google Classroom this year. So current assignments are a rough draft, which is due this Saturday. The Act 1, Scene 1 questions, which will be due next Saturday and will be worth 40 points in progress. Our progress score grades for Raisin in the Sun are going to be a little bit higher than they were for Gatsby, so if you're just now joining us, you stand to be able to improve your grade a little bit more quickly here at the end of the grading period. That's kind of how my grades work normally. As we get closer to the end of the grading period, assignments become worth more to kind of push people to re-engage with the class if you've been struggling to get work done up to this point. The peer review for essay number 2 will also be due next Saturday. Again, you can use any feedback you get from me or friends, family, enemies, any feedback you get on your rough draft, you can use to complete that peer review form. And that is a quick assignment, and that'll be due next Saturday on the 12th. Really quickly, let's look at our learning targets. So our learning targets for this lesson, in the writing portion of this lesson, we're going to review the expectations for the rough draft that's due Saturday. To do that, we're going to look at the embedding quotations again real quick. I'm going to give you another example of how to embed those quotations using the outline that I shared with you. This means that you're going to be able to complete your rough draft for essay number 2 while following the rubric. We're also going to watch for literature, we're going to watch scene 1 of A Raisin in the Sun and complete a set of questions on that scene. And this means we can explore the character development, setting, and authorial choices made in scene 1 of the play. And those questions will be due next Saturday, so you have until next Saturday to watch the first scene of A Raisin in the Sun. The informational assignment for informational learning target for today is we're just going to use that space to work on essay number 2 or any other outstanding assignments, and that means you're able to keep up with the assigned work or get assistance on that older work. Real quick, that week structure, just a quick reminder, there is a recorded lesson on Mondays and Tuesdays. My office hours on Wednesdays usually run from about 11 to about 1:30. And there's a Thursday, Friday lesson, which you are currently observing, and that is posted on Wednesdays as well. For mindfulness today, in class I'm going to show a short video, but here just kind of, vibe to yourself for a second. Okay, so the writing learning target, we're going to review some expectations for the rough draft, and it's going to allow you to complete your rough draft. Specifically, we're going to review how to embed a quote in an essay. This skill is necessary to complete this essay correctly. You have to be able to embed a quotation to complete this essay because you're embedding quotations from the interview that you're doing with someone for either a career or college that you're interested in. So this is the first step for the 5-step process in using quotes to improve your essay and to embed quotes in your essay. The first step is introducing the author of the quotation. So we need to introduce the author so they know that you're using someone else's words. We introduce the author to avoid accusations of plagiarism, and basically I understand how useful it is to go online and find someone who supports your argument. As long as you're quoting them and incorporating their name into your work, you won't be accused of plagiarism, and you'll have a really strong essay. The first time you use that quotation, it's a good idea to introduce the author in their full name, and then after that, you can use their last name before the quotation. So the first time you introduce them, you should use their full name, and after that, you can just use their last name. And to try and avoid getting stuck on the whole he says or she says, you can use some different verbs like state, declare, believe, contend. Contend's real fancy. Recall, write, notes, critiques, propose, etc. Thinks, basically any verb that you can use to replace that he says, she says stuff. So the second step is to state the quotation. So when you're stating the quotation, that's literally just incorporating the quote into your essay. It's important to remember that you should really only be using a quote that supports the topic sentence of whatever paragraph you're putting it in. So if it's a quote that's in your first paragraph, your intro, it should support your thesis. If it's a quote in your second paragraph, it should support the topic sentence of your second paragraph, and so on and so forth. Basically, quotes should support and strengthen whatever your topic sentence is. And there's a little bit more information on this slide about the length of the quote, but I'm going to be able to give you some more feedback on that if you do your rough draft. So as you're completing your rough draft, if you write a really long quote in there that's more than 4 sentences long, I'll help you format that in the correct MLA block quote format. If you're doing shorter quotes, that's generally better. Shorter quotes are generally stronger quotes, and if you use a really long block quote, it just has to earn its space. It has to earn the right to be there by being an exceedingly good quote. All right, so the third step is summarizing the quotation. So when you summarize the quotation, so you've introduced your person, you have quoted them, and now you're going to summarize the quote. You're just going to rephrase the quote in your own words. So you can start it by saying something like in other words, or this refers to, or I believe that what they're saying is, and then you just say the quote again, but in your own words. This gives your audience another opportunity to understand the quote, and it also gives you another opportunity, like an immediate opportunity after the quote, to explain why it's in the essay without really going into a lot of explanation as to why it's in the essay. The fourth step is to analyze the quotation, and this is the part that's fun if you're a research writer. Basically, you're going to break down the quote and talk about what the meaning of the quote is. So your summary rephrases the quote in a new way, restructures the quote. The analysis, the step 4, you're actually going to talk about what the quote means, what they're saying, and analyzing it and breaking it down. You can talk about the keywords in the quote, and then talk about the significance of this person saying this. You can talk about, like, what's this quote mean for this person's life? What's this quote mean in my mind? That kind of thing. And that all goes here. It's your commentary, not just a summary. And then the fifth step is to state the quote's relevance to your argument. Why is this relevant to the original topic sentence? Or why is this relevant to my original thesis statement? So if your thesis statement is, I really want to go to U of L, and you're interviewing someone who gives you a good quote on some cool aspect of U of L, your step 5, you're going to talk about how that quote makes you want to go to U of L more. Now, if you're interviewing someone on, let's say, nursing, and they talk to you about some particularly gory aspect of being in the medical field, and you're like, well, I don't know if I really want to see that, you're going to talk about in step 5 how this quote about some gory aspect of nursing makes you not want to be a nurse. So that's my personal opinion there. If you're going to go to nursing, you're awesome. But basically, your step 5 is you're going to reattach this whole thing to your topic sentence in the paragraph or to your thesis itself. So let's look at an example of that. This is an example pulled from the outline that I shared with you, where I pretended to interview my friend Jordan, and as if I were going to pursue a career in coding. So in the first step, I need to introduce him. So I say, and it ends up producing an entire paragraph, which is awesome. So if you're doing all 5 of these steps, this is a step-by-step breakdown of how you can write your paragraph using these 5 steps. So step 1, I'm going to introduce him. While I was interviewing my friend, I forgot an I in there. While I English teacher, I can't just let it go. While I was interviewing my friend, Jordan Kelly, on his role as a back-end code developer, he told me the hours are truly flexible, saying, when I'm working, and that's the end of my introduction. I've introduced him. I've also set the scene a little bit. And now for step 2, in the green, I'm going to quote him. When I'm working on a coding project, I can get it all done in 5 hours generally, so that 5 hours can happen either at the beginning or the end of the project window. Period, end quotes. So that's me quoting him. So the first 2 steps are I introduce him and then I quote him. I am already safe from being accused of plagiarism because I have quoted him and I have named him. So step 3, I'm going to summarize. In other words, after working in coding for a while, Jordan knows how much time a project will take him and can choose when to complete the project during the multiple day window for the project. So I said the word project a bunch in there, which isn't great writing, but I did summarize the quote. So I summarized what he's saying about when he does his work. Step 4 is analysis. So now I'm going to analyze a little bit what he said and what it means about coding and his career. So in step 4, I say, Jordan can only really do this as an experienced coder because when he first started out, he struggled to determine how long a specific project would take to complete, and he worked for a boss that was far more strict in their timelines for projects. So my step 4 is I'm talking a little bit more about what this means for him as an experienced coder, and thinking to myself a little bit about, I won't be experienced when I start out, so I might not have that same freedom. And then for step 5, I'm going to tie it back to my original topic statement for this paragraph, which was the hours are flexible, and that's attractive to me. This is attractive to me as a career opportunity because I like the idea of being given a window to complete a project and then planning my week around my other goals and needs as a dad, plus the project work time. It's flexible enough to allow for some good dad time with my kids and still get the work done. Okay, so that last sentence is a little bit extra and unnecessary, but you get the idea. I'm tying it back into this topic of I'm interested in coding. That's the thesis of my entire paper. And the topic sentence being because the hours are flexible. So this is the paragraph on having flexible hours tied into my original whole essay thesis of I am interested in coding. And if you use this 5-step process, you can effectively generate good paragraphs for each of your 3 support paragraphs. So your intro paragraph is written using the 4-part thesis in the outline. Your 3 support paragraphs can be written using this step-by-step process, and then your conclusion paragraph is effectively just wrapping everything up. So using these 5 steps, you can get the majority of the essay written just by walking through each step. Step 1, introduce your person. Step 2, quote them. Step 3, summarize their quote in your own words. Step 4, analysis, talk about the quote. What's it mean for them? What's it mean for you? And step 5, how does this impact your original topic sentence for this paragraph or the thesis for your essay? So tie it back in. Doing that, you're going to have really strong, some really strong beefy paragraphs that look nice and read well. Okay, so that was a quick reiteration mini lesson on how to incorporate quotes into your essay. I hope that's helpful. I hope that the structure of that, it makes it a little bit clearer. Essay number 2 is rough draft is due this Saturday, but as per usual, if you turn it in later than that, you can still get full credit. We are 2 weeks away from winter break at this point, so it's important to be hustling to get this stuff done because you don't want to be doing it over winter break. You really don't want to be doing it in the last week before the end of this semester. When we come back from winter break, you really don't want to have to be hustling and crunching on an entire essay during that time. Much better to just go through these steps. Go through the steps in the outline, go through the steps in incorporating your quotes, knock it out now so you don't have it to worry about over the break. You don't want that hanging over you. No other graded assignment than essay number 2 rough draft this week. The Act 1 Scene 1 questions will be due next Saturday. They are graded because we are going to have graded assignments attached to Raisin in the Sun. They won't all be as big as the Act 1 Scene 1 questions, which asks you to write a little bit for the 11 different questions on there, about a sentence each, but they will be graded. And the peer review is also going to be due next Saturday, which is just a form that you fill out after you've gotten feedback on your rough draft from either me or from someone else. Okay, so our literature learning target today is we're going to watch scene 1 of A Raisin in the Sun, and we're going to complete a set of questions on the scene. So this means we can kind of explore the character development, the setting, and the authorial choices being made in scene 1 of the play. So the play itself is based on and kind of written in concert with this poem from the larger collection of poems, Harlem by Langston Hughes. So this is actually from a book-length collection of poems. So this is probably a poem that you've heard before, but our current primary text uses it as where its title comes from. So this is Harlem by Langston Hughes. He writes, "What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode?" All right, so a lot of these, I mean, this is a tight, punchy poem. It's short. It really hits hard with imagery. You know, you got like a lot of clear, very just kind of disgusting images, right? So when we look at imagery, blue for imagery right here, does it fester like a sore? So we have a festering sore image. Does it run? Ugh, it's terrible, right? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over? Crust, syrupy sweet. Syrup and crust and sugar and rotten meat and sores are not words that you want together. And then finally we have this strong metaphor. Does the dream itself explode, or a heavy load? And then we also have the simile here. Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? We have a lot of figurative language attached to this idea of a dream deferred. So what's deferment mean? Deferment means being put off, or detained, or kept from happening. And a lot of times people talk about this poem as the dream deferred poem. I think it was, our first unit was a dream still deferred, talking about Gatsby and looking at the debate between James Baldwin and Buckley about whether or not the American dream is still at the expense of black folks in America. And that unit took its name from a dream deferred also, and it's just this idea that what happens when you put off your goals? And that's a concept that is explored in a large part in A Raisin in the Sun through the characters, all of whom are trying to find ways to stop putting off their goals, or trying to find ways to achieve their dreams, to pursue those dreams, to find a way to make them happen by hook or by crook. And $10,000 kind of shows up very early in this play and enters into this family's life and kind of operates as a catalyst for all of their different dreams. And we're going to hear all those different dreams and their hopes, and kind of the context of those 1950s Chicago that Lorraine Hansberry grew up in. All right, so we're going to watch Raisin in the Sun Act 1 Scene 1 in class and complete the questions for Scene 1. So to do this, it's a small assignment in Google Classroom. It's titled Graded Arits Act 1 Scene 1. Arits is just a raisin in the sun, but not typed out. It runs from the beginning of the film to minute 35, 50 seconds. So it's a 35 and 50 second long viewing. The questions are in this Google form. All you do is respond to those Google forms and I'll be able to give you your grade in Google Classroom based on your responses. And to access the film itself, the primary text PDF is also posted in there, as well as a link to A Raisin in the Sun on YouTube. The version we're watching has Danny Glover in it and is extremely close to the original text of the lines. So there's a little bit of difference, but not as much as the other versions that I found online. All right, that's the end of our literature lesson in the recorded version because I don't want to post, I don't want to just watch the video with you in this recorded session. Essay number 2 rough draft is due this Saturday. No other graded assignment this week than that. Act 1, Scene 1 questions are due next Saturday, and as well as the peer review for essay number 2, which is just a Google form that lets me know what if any usefulness you got out of my feedback on your rough draft, or if you were able to get feedback from anybody else. For informational lesson today, we're just using this as a workspace. All right, and these were the learning targets that we tried to hit today, with the outcome being rough drafts for your writing, the outcome for literature being Act 1, Scene 1 questions. Sorry, cat. And that is the lesson. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you have a really good afternoon and a good weekend.